The global secondhand market is now worth over $200 billion. And it is growing 11 times faster than traditional retail. Let that sink in for a moment. While major fashion brands are closing stores and struggling with declining sales, thrift stores, resale apps, and vintage markets are absolutely exploding. Something massive has shifted in the way people shop, and most people have no idea just how deep this transformation actually goes. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how secondhand shopping went from a last resort for people with tight budgets to one of the most powerful consumer movements on the planet. You will learn the surprising history behind thrift culture, the real data driving this boom, and the one insight that completely flips everything you thought you knew about why people are choosing used over new. The answer is not what most people expect. Let us start at the beginning. Secondhand trading is not new. It is actually one of the oldest commercial practices in human history. In medieval Europe, used clothing was bought and sold openly in markets because new fabric was extraordinarily expensive. For centuries, wearing second-hand clothes was simply practical necessity. Most people could not afford anything else. The idea of buying new clothing regularly was a luxury reserved for the wealthy. Pawnshops and rag traders were legitimate businesses, woven into the fabric of everyday economic life. The real shift happened after World War II. Mass manufacturing made new goods cheaper than ever before. Rising wages gave middle-class families more purchasing power. And suddenly, buying brand new became a symbol of prosperity and progress. Secondhand shopping began to carry a stigma. It became associated with poverty and hardship. Thrift stores run by charities like Goodwill and the Salvation Army filled that space, serving people who genuinely needed affordable clothing. But the cultural message was clear. If you could afford new, you bought new. That attitude dominated consumer culture for decades. Through the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and most of the 90s, the fashion industry thrived on a simple model. Convince people that new is always better, release seasonal trends constantly, and make last season feel outdated and embarrassing. It worked spectacularly. But something was quietly building underneath the surface that would eventually tear that model apart. The first cracks appeared in the 1990s. A growing environmental movement started asking uncomfortable questions about waste. The fashion industry was already one of the most polluting on Earth, producing an estimated 20% of global industrial water pollution and dumping millions of tons of textile waste into landfills every year. And the rise of fast fashion in the early 2000s made everything dramatically worse. Brands like Zara and H&M trained consumers to treat clothing as almost disposable, buying cheap garments and throwing them out within months. Then something interesting happened. A generation of young people who had grown up watching documentaries about climate change started connecting their shopping habits to the environmental crisis they were genuinely worried about. Thrift shopping did not just become acceptable. It started becoming cool. And that changed everything. By the mid-2010s, a genuine cultural moment was underway. Vintage clothing was everywhere on social media. YouTube and Instagram were filled with thrift haul videos that racked up millions of views. Macklemore released a song literally called Thrift Shop in 2012 that hit #1 in 14 countries. The stigma was not just fading. It was completely reversing. Secondhand was no longer about making do. It was about standing out. Now here is what nobody talks about when they discuss this trend. The single biggest driver of the secondhand boom is not actually environmental consciousness. That plays a role, absolutely. But the data tells a more complicated and far more interesting story. According to ThredUp's annual resale report, the #1 reason consumers cite for shopping secondhand is value. Getting more for less. But the reason they keep coming back, the reason resale has become a lifestyle rather than just an occasional purchase, is something the industry calls the thrill of the hunt. There is genuine psychology at work here. Traditional retail gives you predictability. You walk into a store, everything is organized by size and color, the same products are there every week. Thrift shopping gives you something completely different. It is a treasure hunt with no guaranteed outcome. Every visit is unique. And when you find something extraordinary, a designer piece for $3, a vintage jacket that nobody else will ever have, your brain releases dopamine in a way that a standard retail purchase simply cannot match. Resale platforms have figured this out and are exploiting it brilliantly. Platforms like Poshmark, Depop, ThriftUp, and The RealReal have turned secondhand shopping into a full digital experience. Depop in particular cracked the code by building the resale marketplace directly on top of social media mechanics. Sellers build audiences. Buyers follow curators they trust. It became less like shopping and more like scrolling through a feed of possibilities. By the time Etsy acquired Depop in 2021 for $1.6 billion, the platform had 30 million registered users across 150 countries. That acquisition price alone tells you everything about how seriously the business world was taking this shift. The numbers across the industry are staggering. The secondhand clothing market alone is projected to reach $350 billion globally by 2028. In the United States, 1 in 3 shoppers bought secondhand clothing in 2023. Among Gen Z specifically, that number climbs even higher. According to a 2023 First Insight study, 62% of Gen Z prefer to buy from sustainable brands or secondhand sources when given a choice. This is not a niche trend. This is a fundamental generational rewiring of consumer preference. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Traditional luxury brands spent years fighting the resale market. They viewed it as a threat to their pricing power and brand exclusivity. But the data forced them to completely reverse that position. A 2021 Bain & Company study found that the resale market actually increases the perceived value of luxury goods rather than diluting it. When a Rolex or a Hermes bag holds its value and trades actively on the secondary market, it signals enduring quality. Smart luxury brands are now leaning into resale actively. Rolex launched its certified pre-owned program. Gucci partnered with The RealReal. Burberry embraced resale platforms publicly. The industry that once fought secondhand is now building its future around it. The environmental argument, while not the primary driver, is absolutely real and cannot be ignored. The fashion industry produces an estimated 92 million tons of textile waste annually. A single pair of jeans requires roughly 1,800 gallons of water to produce from raw cotton to finished product. Extending the life of a garment by just 9 additional months reduces its carbon, water, and waste footprint by approximately 20 to 30%. When you multiply that across billions of garments, the environmental math becomes genuinely significant. Buying secondhand is not a perfect solution to fashion's sustainability crisis, but it is one of the most immediately impactful consumer choices anyone can make. The economic dimension is equally compelling. Inflation has hammered household budgets across the developed world since 2021. When new clothing prices rise sharply, secondhand becomes not just attractive but necessary for many families. ThriftUp reported a 30% increase in new users in 2022, directly correlated with rising inflation rates. Secondhand shopping has always surged during economic downturns, but this latest wave is different because the cultural and social barriers that once existed have almost completely disappeared. People who discovered secondhand out of financial necessity are staying because they genuinely prefer it. What does this all mean going forward? Traditional retailers are already adapting. IKEA runs furniture buyback programs. Patagonia has built an entire repair and resale arm called Worn Wear. H&M operates garment collection points in its stores. These are not PR gestures. They are structural responses to a market that is moving rapidly away from the pure buy new model. Companies that ignore this shift will lose customers to platforms and competitors that embrace it. The rise of secondhand shopping represents something genuinely rare in consumer culture. It is a trend that is simultaneously driven by economics, environmental values, social media psychology, and generational identity. That combination makes it extraordinarily durable. This is not a fad. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Trend Now Daily for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.